Hello babies, welcome back to another Modern League. This week we're playing a budget deck that I had a lot of fun with, Gruul Footfalls. The deck list is on screen now and in the description below. It's about $100 to build this in paper and just under 30 ticks to play this on Magic Online, so it's pretty cheap for Modern, and I had a lot of fun with this deck. It impressed me a lot. Let's get into the deck tech. Starting off with our namesake card, Crashing Footfalls is a 0-mana sorcery that creates two 4/4 Rhino tokens with Trample, and has Suspend for 4 and 1 green mana. Because it only costs 1 green mana, sometimes we actually do just suspend this card, but usually we're trying to cheat on its mana cost since it doesn't have one with some of our Cascade spells. For our Cascade spells, we have 4 copies of Violent Outburst, which always gets our Rhinos, because our Rhinos are the only thing in our deck that cost less than 3, 4 copies of Bloodbraid Elf, and 2 copies of Throes of Chaos. Bloodbraid Elf and Throes of Chaos have a bit of a random element to them, because there are actually some other cards that they can hit, but the majority of the time, 2 out of 3 times specifically in the main deck, it hits either a Violent Outburst or a Crashing Footfalls, so more often than not we're getting Rhinos. For our creatures, we have 4 copies of Bone Crusher Giant, which is the only non-Rhino spell that our 4-mana Cascade spells can hit. It serves us as some additional removal in the early game and also has a decent body. We have 3 copies of Obsidian Charmaw, which enters the battlefield and destroys a non-basic land an opponent controls, and it also costs less mana for each land they have that can produce colorless. And we have 1 copy of Hooting Mandrills because it's a decent body and it's pretty easy to delve away its costs. For our interactive spells, we have 4 copies of Dead and Gone, which we can cast either side of, either to deal 2 damage to a creature or to bounce an opponent's creature, which I found surprisingly useful for a red deck, and 4 copies of Fire Ice. We can only cast the fire part of it, and it essentially is just a forked bolt where we can deal 2 damage divided as we choose between creatures and players. There's a lot of 1 toughness creatures running around, so it's pretty good, and I was very satisfied with that. And we have 4 copies of Repudiate Replicate. Again, because we only have Gruul mana, Repudiate's the only part of this card we care about, but being able to pay green to counter a target activated ability was really good and overperformed over the course of my league. Being able to counter fetch lands, planeswalker activated abilities, triggered abilities from creatures especially was big because it essentially counters like Solitude and Fury. This card was really sweet. And finally, we have 1 copy of Magmatic Sinkhole, which we can delve away the mana cost of, and is some decent removal for larger creatures or planeswalkers. In our mana base, we start off with some pretty typical budget Gruul lands with 4 copies of Cinderglade, 4 copies of Cragcrown Pathway, and 4 copies of Rootbound Crag. We have 2 copies of Sheltered Thicket, since we can cycle it in case we're mana flooded, and it also plays well with Rootbound Crag. We have 2 copies of Raging Ravine as our on-color manland, and we have 1 copy of Treetop Village as another manland that's cheaper to animate. And we're rounding off our mana base with 4 basic mountains and 4 basic forests. In our sideboard, we have 3 copies of Anger of the Gods for creature decks, 3 copies of Pillage as a way to blow up artifacts or lands, and 2 copies of Kitchen Finks as some life gain against aggressive decks. We have 1 copy of Beast Within as some versatile instant speed removal, and 1 copy of Choke because it's hilarious against blue decks. 4 copies of Foundation Breaker as some enchantment and artifact removal, and 1 more copy of Obsidian Charmaw because if I queue into Tron, I want to make them sad. And that's the deck tech. Like I said, this deck was really fun to play and definitely impressed me, and let's get into the league. Alright, round 1 of budget Gruul Footfalls in Modern. We only have 1 land in this hand, unfortunately, so we got a mulligan. Pretty land heavy this time. We're gonna mulligan a bit too far if we go any further, so I think I'll keep this. Yeah, let's keep. Let's get rid of... Our opponent's not playing a... companion. I kind of want to keep Treetop Village. I think I just get rid of a basic mountain here. And I'll lead on Village Go. See what our opponent plays. Savai Triumph, okay. We draw Footfalls. Let's go ahead and suspend you, play a mountain, pass the turn. We have a Dead and Gone up this turn in case we need it. Our opponent looks like they're playing the Domain Zoo deck. Yeah, okay. This seems like it might be a difficult matchup. I haven't played against it yet. We can play Rootbound Crag. Do I just want to get rid of Scion now? Is there any reason to wait until my opponent's turn? I guess I'll see what they do on their turn. I don't think they would be playing any counter spells. I'm probably just gonna cast a dead and then stomp on the 4/4 to kill it. Opponent plays an island, plays a meddling mage. They're gonna name my... Okay. I mean, I assume they're gonna name Crashing Footfalls here. Yeah, makes sense. So if they're playing a bunch of meddling mages, that's interesting. I'm gonna want to get that off the board. Let's stomp you. I haven't seen Meddling Mage in Domain Zoo, at least in the main deck that I know of. So it's kind of curious. And shock you with Dead. Doesn't feel as bad to double removal spell that as it normally would since we have the Bone Crusher Giant still. We draw another fire. Okay. I think I want to play Crag Crown and pass and just leave up double Fire Ice. We can really only play the fire part of Fire and Ice, but it's kind of fine. Like, Forked Bolt is really good in the format right now because of all the Ragavans and whatnot. Scion of Draco again. Okay. Fuck, I should have killed it in response. That was stupid. Alright, let's see if they attack into... Okay, they don't. So I think I just have to double remove Draco now. I forgot that it gets hexproof if it's blue. Shock you. Shock you again. Alright, hopefully we get removal from Meddling Mage. Otherwise this is going to feel a bit bad. We do get removal from Meddling Mage. Okay. I mean, it's an instant. So let's just pass. Footfalls comes down next turn unless they get some counter magic or another Meddling Mage also on Footfalls. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. We're definitely signaling that we have a spell to cast since we didn't play Bone Crusher there. I keep hoping my opponent's going to attack in. We don't use our graveyard for anything other than Delve, so we might as well use it here. They did not have a counter spell. And they also didn't play anything on their turn, which was kind of odd. Alright. Crashing Footfalls comes off Suspend. We did cast a Footfalls so far this game. We're kind of doing it the hard way. Do I want to hold up Repudiate or do I want to play Bone Crusher Giant? I think I want to go ahead and play Bone Crusher and press the advantage. Pass the turn. Because now we have 15 power possibly on board if we animate Treetop Village. Ah, shit. Yeah, our opponent's playing a weird deck. I definitely would have held up Repudiate if I knew about Hidetsugu. We drew another one. Okay. I'm going to read this. So I can counter the last ability, and that's pretty good. Attack for 7. Does opponent have removal for Treetop? If opponent has removal for Treetop, it means that we can't repudiate unless we draw green. Oh my god. Alright. So they're getting rid of Bone Crusher or Treetop Village? They're getting rid of Treetop Village. Good lord. Yeah, our opponent's playing a way weirder deck than I realized. They've got a lot of different picks from normal. Territorial Kavu, okay. Well, we expected to see that one at least. We draw Dead and Gone. Interesting. Let's pass. Opponent flips their boy. Opponent draws a card and discards a card. They get rid of their Prismatic Ending. I'm going to block with Bone Crusher and then dead their Kavu. Opponent plays a Triome. We shock the Kavu. We hope to draw something good. Drawing Violent Outburst would probably be the best possibility right now. It was probably a bit too risky to animate Treetop Village now that I think about it. Oh my god. Alright. Opponent has Spell Quellers also, apparently. Good lord. Alright, I'm just going to concede. They played a lot of things I did not expect them to play. What would we like to change about our deck? Land Destruction seems like it would be very good here. Finks could also be good. Hooting Mandrills does not seem good enough. Sinkhole is good enough. Fire and Ice is fine, I think. Dead and Gone's good. Bone Crusher's good. Of course, the combo cards stay in. Maybe a Throes of Chaos goes away. Our opponent has fetches, so it's worth keeping in Repudiate. Let's cut a Throes of Chaos. Let's bring in... I don't think just land destruction by itself is good enough. But I think another Charmaw and maybe Beast Within, because it can hit their larger creatures and it can also hit their lands, are good. Yeah, let's try it like that. We didn't see any lands that tap for colorless, so the Charmaws are going to be 5-drops, but as long as we interact with our opponent, we should be able to get to the point that we can actually play them, and they should be very, very good once we can. Because hitting a Triome both gets them mana screwed and shrinks their creatures. Let's see. Yes, we will take the play. We have Violent Outburst, we have 2 Repudiates and a Charmaw. We can go turn 1 Rootbound Crag, turn 2 play Timber Crown Pathway, leave up Repudiate, turn 3 Violent Outburst. That seems pretty good. Let's keep. We get disrupted by a Meddling Mage on turn 2, but if we counter their fetch land, we're in a good spot. And I don't think they, if I remember right, they didn't see our Repudiates last game, so we should be free to cast those. They probably won't play around them. Repudiate also can like counter Spell Queller trigger, and it's pretty good when you can use it to counter Solitude triggers as well. Opponent plays a tapped Savaitrium. Okay. Play a green source, pass the turn. We drew fire, so we do have some removal in case they play Meddling Mage. Yeah, if they play Meddling Mage and name Footfalls, we're gonna fire Meddling Mage. If they play a fetch land, we can counter the fetch land. Most other things we just don't really have to interact with. Okay, they played a fetch land. No. Ah, that feels so good. I love Repudiate. Alright, Mountain, go. If they play another fetch land, I might just Repudiate again. And I will. Keep them behind. Untap. Draw another Charmaw. Pass the turn. So this turn we're casting Violent Outburst, most likely. Maybe they'll miss a land drop, that'd be nice. They got another fetch land, that's sad. But oh well. Shocks in a breeding pool, okay. Plays Territorial Kavu, okay. It is a 5/5, which makes Violent Outburst into 4/4s not as good, but we have Dead Gone and our opponent doesn't know about that. Cast Violent Outbursts. Cast Crashing Footfalls. Our opponent could have Solitudes that could mess us up. Let's play a Sheltered Thicket. Go to combat. Attack for a bunch. Alright, if they let the damage go through, we can cast Fire, actually, instead of Dead Gone. Or Dead and Gone, however you want to say it. Cast Fire, 1/1. Okay. Pass the turn. See if our opponent has a third land drop. They do. If we draw an untapped land, we can play Charmaw. Our opponent answers our 4/4. That's fine. Opponent plays a Scion of Draco. That's a little bit sad. We draw. Fire Ice. Okay, since we know that our opponent has Spell Quellers, I think I just want to get rid of this now. And really hope that we start drawing, that we draw an untapped land, because we'll have 2 Obsidian Charmaws to play. The only thing that we don't want to draw are more Charmaws, really. Removal isn't the best, but at least can do something. Most of anything else is at least decent. We draw. Repudiate. Okay, that is not something we wanted to draw. Pass the turn. If they play a fetch land, we can counter it again. But we would like something that actually serves as action. We take 4. Okay. Puts us to 16. Opponent passes. We draw a land. Okay. Charmaw number 1, please resolve. Please resolve. I mean, they can't Spell Queller it. They might have some other shit. Alright. Get rid of Savaitrium, because it gets you off the most colors immediately. Opponent. Plays a Spell Queller. I'm fine with that. We can block and kill Scion of Draco. I'd be more than happy to. Opponent plays Solitude. We're not going to get the chance currently, at least. Our opponent exiled a Meddling Mage with it. Okay. Hits us for 6. We can play Treetop Village. Play Charmaw. Blow up Breeding Pool. Opponent plays Chalice on 0. That's kind of a pain in the ass. I will block and kill Scion. to get Hexproof and Vigilance off of Spell Queller. We draw a Bone Crusher Giant. Okay. Let's get in with Treetop Village. Our opponent's at 7. I think I just pass here, since we are ahead on life and board. Opponent attacks for 2. We'll go down to 12. If they play a fetch land, they don't. Okay. We're gonna stomp you. Get our opponent down to 5. We untap, we draw Bone Crusher Giant. Excellent. Animate Treetop Village, so we can go for a kill here if our opponent lets the 3 from Treetop Village in. Almost did an oopsie. And stomp you. Force a negation. Jesus Christ, what is our opponent's deck doing? Alright. Reasonably, we can still win from here since we still have Treetop Village. Our opponent gets a land, which we can't repudiate this second. They're leaving back Spell Queller. That's excellent. It means they probably don't have removal. We draw Fire and Ice, which I'm going to attack first. I'm going to play as conservatively as possible, because apparently our opponent just has a bunch of random counter spells. They can't force some negation right now, at least. Nothing happens with Spell Queller. I'm going to pass. Play conservatively. Repudiate. Also partially because I just like repudiating fetch lands. Okay. Excellent. All right. So I think I just keep it the same. Pillage is a bit more tempting now. I'm not so sure about all the Charmaws. Maybe I go down Throes of Chaos since they brought in Chalice of the Void, and I bring in Pillage. Do I go down a Charmaw? Because getting stuck on lands can suck, but like we saw, Charmaw can also be really good if we can actually play them. Yeah, let's just do it like that. Throes of Chaos is also a little bit worse in this matchup now that I think about it, because they can exile it with Territorial Kavu. So we're not guaranteed to retrace it. It's really better for like the weird mid-rangey kind of matchups, or if we just don't have as many cards that we want to bring in. But Pillage can answer either a land or a Chalice of the Void, and both of those are pretty nice. If they weren't playing so many creatures, I think bringing in 2 Pillages would be correct. But I'm just not certain the way that it is currently. Like maybe this Beast Within should just be a Pillage instead. It's probably better if we're on the play though anyway. So Beast Within is probably better on the draw, since we can answer creatures with it. Choke could be good, but it's probably not necessary. They don't have... well, they have a lot of island-type lands, but they're not... well, I don't know. We have a lot of cards that we like in this matchup, I think, especially since we need to get rid of Meddling Mages more than anything to actually be able to use our Rhinos. Alright, well this hand is slow as piss, but it has a little bit of removal. We know our opponent's deck is pretty slow, and it has a Cascade. And it has all of our... it has some lands that we can cycle. It has all of our lands. Let's keep it. We'll see what happens. I kind of want to draw some removal, I think. But apparently our opponent has a bunch of counterspells and stuff, so they're kind of geared towards a slower game than I initially realized. Opponent plays Tezzey Triome. Cool, cool. Let's play Sheltered Thicket. Reason I'm playing that instead of Cinderglade is if I draw... We have 4 or 5 drops, and if I draw one of them, I want to be able to play it on turn 5 after I play this on turn 3 and this on turn 4 and possibly cycle. Opponent plays Kavu. Okay. It's a little spooky. Play Rootbound Crag. Pass the turn. So if I Beast within their Tezzey Triome, it shrinks the Kavu, which is nice. And we can also Sinkhole the Kavu eventually, in theory. I'm going to cycle Sheltered Thicket here at end of turn. Opponent has Otawara in their 5-color deck, which seems incredibly greedy to me. Opponent hits us for 5. Well, what? Opponent does not discard a card and draw a card. They exile up to 1 card from a graveyard instead, and that just doesn't do anything. We go to 15. They've got to have Tribal Flames in their deck somewhere, but we haven't seen them yet. Opponent plays a second Kavu. Okay, we're in danger. We are in danger. Depends on what this Beast Within and Magmatic Sinkhole can do for us, I suppose. We draw Bloodbraid Elf. That could be good. Let's untap. Dead and Gone. That could also be good. Alright, let's play a Mountain. Pass the turn. I'm curious what our opponent is going to do in the way of land drops this turn. Because if our opponent plays a non-Triome, Beast Withinning Tezzey Triome shrinks both of these. And that just seems like a pretty good deal. Like, it gives our opponent an extra creature, but actually gets us to where we could possibly shock to kill a Kavu. Of course they could play a fetch land into a Triome again, which would be no bueno. They could also just Spell Queller the Beast Within and then we'd be sad. But we just kind of have to accept that as a possibility. Opponent puts Meddling Mage into the graveyard. Let's see if our opponent has counter magic. Cross your fingers for me. Opponent has a Mystic Dispute. Okay. So we're taking a shit ton of damage here. If our opponent has a Force of Negation, we are probably just dead. And if our opponent has Tribal Flames, we're definitely just dead. So let's spin it to win it with Bloodbraid Elf. Get a Footfalls. Cross your fingers. Okay. Not attacking because it's a bit too dangerous. We've seen Prismatic End from our opponent, so we don't want to play into that. If we have the option, at least. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. Yeah, we might just be a bit too behind already this game, especially with the... Okay, opponent has a flying creature now, too. And they have First Strike on their Kavus and Trample. What can we even do to this? Like, we have to block. Opponent clears out our graveyard, makes our sinkhole worse. What's the best way to block here? At least one Rhino is blocking. We're already dead to a Tribal Flames. If our opponent has a Solitude, we're gonna... Well, if our opponent has a Solitude, we gain life equal to its power, so never mind. Right now we're taking 6. Do I block with a Rhino or do I block with Bloodbraid Elf, is the question. I think I block with a Rhino since it has Trample right now, and I leave Bloodbraid Elf in play. We're going to die if our opponent has a Bolt. Opponent fetches. Yeah, we're incredibly far behind in this game. So I just don't think that there's a way for us to reasonably come back. Especially since our opponent cleared out our graveyard so we don't get a cheap Magmatic Sinkhole. Like, I could Gone away the Scion to maybe do a combat trick. Opponent. Let's see if my... Looks like they have... Okay, they have a Meddling Mage. Hey, good lord. I mean, I assume this is going to name Footfalls. Maybe I don't think Kitchen Finks is right to bring in, because even if it gains us life, it doesn't really compete on board with these other creatures, for the most part at least. This is a pretty fun matchup to play, though, I'm not going to lie. I'm just curious what I'm going to draw. I don't think I can draw anything to actually get out of this, but my opponent's taking basically forever to name something with Meddling Mage, unfortunately. Let's look at the sideboard some more. So yeah, Choke seems okay. They only have like a medium amount of islands. They do have a bit more blue than I realized, though. Opponent names Obsidian Charmaw with Meddling Mage. That's a little curious. Because Charmaw doesn't get us back in this game from where we are. So let's see, I could play Bloodbraid Elf. I could Cascade into Rhinos. Our opponent would have to block with Scion of Draco and let me dead the Scion of Draco for me to still be alive here. I think that's the only line. So let's attack and see if they do that. Maybe they'll think I'm just like frustrated and attacking in for no reason. Opponent takes it. And we concede. Yeah, because we needed to get Scion off of the board, but we didn't have enough mana to also play Bloodbraid Elf or also play Magmatic Sinkhole on top of playing Gone. So that's where we ran into an issue there. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Alright, round 2 of Budget Footfalls. We won the die roll. We've got some early game interaction. We've got a Bloodbraid Elf as a win condition, hopefully. We have a Treetop Village, which might be nice. Let's keep. Opponent mulligans. So I think I just go turn 1 Mountain Go and leave up dead. Because these are only 1 or 2 drops, so turn 2 we can play Treetop Village. Opponent plays Hollowed Fountain. They're not playing a Companion, so at least it's not a Yorion deck. We draw Violent Outburst, interesting. Play Treetop Village. Out Ourselves is playing something really weird, since nobody plays Treetop Village these days. Pass the turn. Our opponent is playing Living End. It looks like. I don't know why they're playing Hollowed Fountain and Living End if this is... well... They cycled. Maybe they're just playing a cycling deck? They played Sea Chrome Coast. They could still be playing like an Ardent Plea Living End deck. We draw Repudiate. That's pretty nice. Let's play Rootbound Crag. Pass the turn. So at the end of their turn, we could Violent Outburst. If they go for a Living End effect, we can counter their Cascade trigger with Repudiate. Definitely looks like Living End. Maybe they're playing the As Foretold Living End deck. The Gone part of Dead and Gone seems pretty good against them. Opponent taps a blue in their second main phase to cycle. Okay. Taps a blue. Cycles Glass Dust. Hulk. Okay. Okay. Opponent plays an island. No Spell Pierces, please. Or if you do have a Spell Pierce, please counter Violent Outburst by accident instead of our Footfalls. Would be nice. Yeah, it looks like they have a Spell Pierce. They do not. They just tap their blue to cycle, apparently. Weird. Our opponent's deck is a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. Alright, let's leave Bloodbraid Elf in hand and attack you. We can leave up Repudiate and we can leave up Dead Gone. And it doesn't change our clock, since we should have our opponent dead next turn if they don't interact anyway. They do have a pretty spooky looking Living End, if they have one. I'm going to let my opponent crack the Misty because I think they're on an Ardent Plea deck. And if they crack Misty, it doesn't change whether or not they can play 3 drops. Okay, so they can cast Shartless Agent, which is probably what they're going to try to do now. They're probably on Ardent Plea Shardless Agent. Our opponent has put themselves down to where we have them lethal on board. Opponent plays Shartless. We see the true power of Repudiate. You can have your 2/2, opponent. I kill the 2/2. Fun times. And I'm going to animate and attack with Treetop Village just in case my opponent has a Solitude, since our opponent's playing sort of a weird list. And cool. Alright, so the issue being... We don't have very good graveyard hate, since we're not playing Endurances and this is a budget deck, but we have Choke, which can be nice. I think Pillages can be nice too. Anger of the Gods is probably not good enough, since most of their stuff, like we saw, is 4 toughness or greater. Fire and Ice is probably not good enough, so we probably just cut those for Pillages and Choke. Do I want Beast Within just as more land destruction? Yeah, I think I cut one Throes of Chaos, bring in a Beast Within. Try it like that. So we're going to try to jank our opponent out again, using Repudiate to either counter their fetch lands or counter their Cascade triggers. This hand doesn't have any of that. We only have 2 lands. We don't have any appropriate interaction, and we don't have a guarantee. Because we only have 2 lands, we don't have a guaranteed way to actually kill our opponent here, so I think I got a mulligan. This hand we have an Outburst at least. I think we ditch Hooting Mandrills probably. Because then we still have Throes of Chaos and we can keep going. Hopefully. Yeah, let's keep. Ditch Hooting Mandrills. Hopefully we draw Repudiate. That's the main thing that I'd like to draw here. Our opponent was wondering why we're not playing Teamer Rhinos, and I explained that it's a budget deck. Alright, we need something good. We draw Choke. That can be something good one day. The issue is that we have to actually get there, so we gotta play another tap land past the turn. We don't have any 2-drops to play this turn anyway, so it doesn't matter. Our opponent can get 2 things back if they Cascade here. Doesn't look like they're going for the Cascade. If our opponent taps out, I'm absolutely playing Choke. Our opponent does not play a 3rd land, which coincidentally also does not tap their Hollowed Fountain, unfortunately. So do I just go for Choke now? Or do I wait and Violent Outburst? Either way, I'm probably playing this Forest. I think I pass, because if they miss a land drop again, I can go for Violent Outburst on their turn. I think they would just counter it if I played a Choke here, most likely. Because they probably have Force of Negations in their deck. Opponent finds a land, they play Teferi. We will Outburst in response, because we might as well. We don't have a way to get rid of Teferi right now since we don't have Stomp. But Teferi's going to downtick on a Rhino most likely, and then we can attack in with the other Rhino to get it off the board. And that could be nice at least. If our opponent doesn't have a Force our next turn too, we're going to play Choke. And hopefully lock down their 2 Hollowed Fountains. Alright, we get our Rhinos. We get one of them bounced, as happens. Let's attack in at Teferi. See if our opponent has random removal for our Rhino. Say that 3 times fast. Alright, Teferi down. Play Choke. Fingers crossed. Come on. Aw, opponent has a Force Negation. So sad. Play Treetop Village, pass the turn. Alright, our opponent didn't have They didn't Cascade last turn. They might have been trying to play around Repudiate. They play another Teferi. Okay, that's kind of sad. We can kill Teferi again. But it's not going to be pretty. Ooh, got a Bone Crusher Giant. Makes it a little bit easier. So we can... start by casting Stomp on Teferi. Sad that we didn't get that choke down. I would like to actually resolve one of them during this league if I have the option. Opponent plays Force of Negation on our Stomp. They got rid of their Ardent Plea, so they have at least one more Cascade effect, I assume. Play Pathway. Animate Treetop Village, attack Teferi. Well, I hit that wrong. Try again. Animate Treetop Village. If our opponent cascades, they're only getting 3 creatures still, so we actually have a decent amount of rhinos / removal to be able to fight through that. Opponent has a Solitude, Jesus Christ. They get rid of another Ardent Plea. Alright, so now we need to draw... we need to either dedicate a Bloodbraid Elf, losing the Cascade trigger to get rid of Teferi, or draw a land so I can animate Raging Ravine to do it. Opponent cracks a Misty. They have 1 card in hand. They get a tap land. They play Shardless Agent. Okay. So we're in danger since they have that plus Teferi still in play. We might just be dead because they have quite a board now. One of their guys have Hexproof. They have a 4/4, and is Glass Dust Hulk also a 4/4, I think? I'm not certain. But they're out of cards in hand, and that's something at least. Alright. What can we do? What can we do? Oh yeah, they get Solitude back too. That's kind of a pain in the ass. Alright, I think we just gotta concede. Yeah, unfortunately, I would probably try to play through it if they didn't have the Teferi in play and just see if we can get enough 4/4s to stay alive. But it doesn't look possible here. Do I want to change anything? Not really. Our opponent playing Teferi kind of makes Throes of Chaos worse. Do I want to bring in Charmaw? Charmaw's spicy. I'll try it out. It'll be a bit difficult for us to get up to that amount of mana, but if we're going to mostly be on the mana denial plan, which should work better since we're on the play, playing Charmaw as our top end might be better, since it isn't disrupted by Teferi. Yes, I will play first. We have Pillage, Bloodbraid Elf, Hooting Mandrills, and we have the mana to play the Pillages, so I'm not going to be too picky about that. Our opponent does have Forces, so they're not guaranteed to resolve at any point, but we can play turn 1, Cinderglade as a tap land, pass the turn. We don't have anything for turn 2 currently. Drawing a Repudiate would be nice so we can deal with fetch lands possibly. I'm not sure if I'd rather hit a fetch land or a Cascade effect. Rootbound Crag. We're going to represent Repudiate at least, pass the turn. If Pillage resolves, we're in a pretty decent spot, because they have to get to 3 mana to actually Living End. Bant Living End is pretty spicy. I like the idea at the very least of having... Yeah, I wish we had Repudiate for this Misty. That would make this game much easier. Because if we could Repudiate the Misty and then destroy their one other land, ooh, that'd feel so good. Alright. We draw Charmaw. Okay. Play a land. Cross your fingers for me. No Force of Negation, please. No Force of Negation. Excellent. Alright. So that means we probably get to play Pillage next turn because they're unlikely to draw another Force here. And then we can play Charmaw if we draw another land, or we can play Bloodbraid Elf to try to close the game out. Opponent cycles Waker of Waves, puts a Force of Negation in the graveyard. Why? That must mean that they put another Force of Negation into hand, right? We'll see. Pillage. Resolves. Pathway. Go. Probably should have played that on green. Hopefully it won't matter. If we draw a land, I'm absolutely playing Charmaw here. If not, Bloodbraid Elf still seems pretty good. Opponent cycles. They got another land. I really want to play Charmaw. They cycle again. Come on, untap land off the top. That would be great. We draw. Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. We gotta go for it. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a third land drop. They... Ooh! If Choke resolves, then that's hilarious. Alright. I forgot Bloodbraid Elf can hit more land destruction for us. That's hilarious. Alright, so we have another chance at drawing Charmaw to blow up their Botanical Sanctum. That's very funny. Opponent gets a Plains. They actually have a basic Plains, that's kind of funny. We draw Repudiate. I mean, that's an answer for a Cascade spell. So I think we just attack in. Since we can counter a Shartless Agent, and then might tap an island for it. Our opponent's pretty close to dead too, so if we just attack here and then attack in with Bloodbraid Elf next turn, that's enough to be lethal, so we don't actually have to develop our board here if we don't want to. I think we... Okay, opponent has Petty Theft. I'm not happy about it, but it happens. We do have Repudiate, so I think our opponent only has Sorcery Speed, Cascade. Opponent plays Shardless Agent. We're going to stifle it. If our opponent has Mystical Dispute, they can counter our Repudiate. They do not have Mystical Dispute. They get a Shardless Agent. Did we just jank out Living End? I think we did. Let's cast Dead on Shardless Agent to clear the way. And then we can attack in with 2 Bloodbraid Elves. And that should do it. Our opponent could have Solitude still, I guess. We draw Rootbound Crag. Okay, let's play Rootbound Crag. Tap, 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 tap. Cascade. Did we jank out Living End? Come on. Opponent concedes. Sweet. Who's the better Cascade deck now? Fucking probably $400 Living End or $100 / 30 ticks Gruul Cascade. Alright. I will see you in the next one. Alright, round 3. We won the die roll. I've been very lucky with that lately. I'm very happy about it. We have a Cascade spell in Throes of Chaos. We have some early game interaction with Repudiate, and we have an Obsidian Charmaw just for shits and giggles. I think I'll keep this. Our opponent's not playing a companion, which is always a welcome sight. So I can go turn 1 Cinderglade because I don't have anything to play on turn 1 anyway. And then turn 2 I can play Timbercrown Pathway, hold up Repudiate. And then maybe draw something to play on turn 3. Seems decent. Our opponent mulligans. Let's play Cinderglade, pass the turn. Playing Cinderglade pretty much just puts us on being like an old type. Oh god. Amulet. That complicates things. Alright, Obsidian Charmaw might be able to come down earlier. But this is still bad news for us, at the very least. Saga ticks up. I can Repudiate to counter Saga tutoring for Amulet, which might be nice. Hopefully they don't just happen to be on Saga make some boys and kill you the old-fashioned way plan. But we'll see, I guess. If they play a second Saga, I can play Charmaw to blow up one of them, which could also be nice. I guess we'll see what happens with that. Our opponent probably doesn't have us dead this turn, especially through a Repudiate, but Amulet can do a lot of very silly things, so we'll see. Amulet would be fun to play on the channel, I think, and since I already have Urza Sagas, I have a decent amount of the deck cost out of the way. Opponent says they're in the tank. I'm fine with that. Playing Affinity, I know how it is. Sometimes you just need to figure out your sequencing. Although I'm sure Affinity is way easier to play than Amulet. It's mostly like if you can play something, you should. Except occasionally you pass and leave up Urza's Saga or a counterspell. Opponent plays Amulet. We don't have anything to do about that. That's fine. So they do have a Amulet already. Okay. They tap Sanctuary for mana. Okay. They play Arboreal Grazer. Okay. They get some more mana out of it. Okay. Tap Sanctuary for mana. Okay. They have 4 mana now. They play KGC. Okay. Karn's going to get to tutor for something. I don't think I'm going to counter the tutor effect, because I think I'd rather just leave up Repudiate for Urza Saga getting another Amulet. I was hoping that they would go for... I was hoping they'd be able to sequence themselves into going Summoner's Pact to get Primetime, because I'd be able to counter the Primetime trigger and then hopefully they'd die to Summoner's Pact. Play a Mountain. Pass the turn. They're going to be able to blow up one of my lands, which is a little sad. What do I do? If I let them get the other Amulet, I'm pretty much on the... Yeah, let's let them get the other Amulet. I want to see if I can make them die to Summoner's Pact by having a random squelch effect that they don't know about. If they just try to kill our land, I might Repudiate the Karn activation. But we'll see what happens. Opponent gets an Amulet. Who could have seen this coming? So opponent could have 6 mana. They play Liquid Metal Coating. Okay. Tap for a green. Yeah, it looks like opponent's just going to go on the plus Karn plan. So I'll counter them destroying our land. If they don't have a payoff, which I think this might be signaling to us, we might actually be able to get there by making boys. If we get boys off of Throzo Chaos. Or if they play a colorless land and we get to blow up a land with Charmaw, maybe? They play Talaria West, okay. They untap it a little bit, okay. And opponent passes. So they have a Karoo land in their hand. We can play Forest. We drew another Repudiate, which is interesting. I can't Charmaw here. I don't think it's worth going for Throes of Chaos, since they can likely just... Because of double Amulet and them being able to pick up Talaria West, I'm pretty sure they can just kill us by getting... Opponent plays Explore. Yeah, I think they're going to go for the kill here. They can't take us off double green with liquid metal coating, so I'm not going to worry about it. Although I'm going to tap here. Make them at least plus our Karn. Opponent seems to be passing. Okay. I don't want to play too carefully, but I do kind of want to try to get him with Repudiate. Opponent plays Sanctuary. Tap on tap. Tap on tap. Okay. They have an additional land drop. Yep. Tap on tap. Tap on tap. Tap on tap. They have 8 mana. What are they going to do with the 8 mana? Are they going to Summoner's Pact, please? They do Summoner's Pact. Come on. Opponent gets prime time. They have double green. They are out of land drops currently. They could play another Explorer, I guess. But they have a Karoo. I think we just got him. No. Did we just win? Yeah, we did. Hell yeah. Well, Repudiate's pretty good. Alright. Beast Within. Foundation Breakers. Pillages. Probably also Charmaw, but I'll see in a second. Get rid of Hooting Mandrills, get rid of Sinkhole, probably. Get rid of Throes of Chaos. Get rid of other Throes of Chaos, probably. Fire and Ice seems bad. Dead and Gone seems fine. Like it can bounce a thing, I guess. Bone Crusher seems kind of bad. I think I take out Bone Crusher, bring in another Charmaw. Choke isn't really good. Kitchen Finks definitely isn't good. Magmatic Sinkhole. It can't bounce Prime Time, but it can kill like Dryads, I guess. But it's kind of hard for us to fuel our graveyard that much. And our opponent basically doesn't know what deck we're playing. As they say over here. I think I cut another Bone Crusher because it's more useless and bring in Throes of Chaos. Well, Bone Crusher can hit Azusa, and they do still play that. I think I go down to 2 Bone Crushers and bring in the Throes. Because now we're increasing our chance of Throes of Chaos hitting a land destruction spell, which is also pretty nice. Alright, let's try it like that and see what happens. Our opponent basically saw nothing out of our deck. Other than Repudiate twice, which is hilarious. Alright, we have a very, very slow hand. I think we have to mulligan this. Because we don't have the lands already, and we don't really have interaction. This is just a racy kind of hand. We could interact with Bone Crusher, I guess. I think I got a mulligan. Okay, we have Repudiate, which is apparently an all-star card. I probably just get rid of Footfalls, I assume. And I need to draw land still, but I don't want to go to 5 just to look for more lands. Maybe I do. No, I don't think I want to go that deep. Let's keep, get rid of Footfalls. They have an edge since they're on the play anyway. I also sort of wish that we had proper... Alright, let's play a Forest Pass. This way it's more likely that we can hold up Repudiate, which I think is a bit more important than holding up Dead on this turn. Opponent plays Talaria West, okay. We untap, we draw Footfalls. Let's... I guess we suspend this, so we at least have something ticking down. Our opponent seems to have a pretty slow hand since they didn't play anything on the first 2 turns, really. Our opponent knows what we're doing now since we suspended a Footfall. I assume, at least. Opponent plays Amulet. We're pretty sad about that. Hopefully we draw removal for it. They haven't done anything with it yet, though, which is nice. Always yield to Footfalls. Draw Rootbound Crag. We're closer to being able to do things. Obsidian Charmaw is full value still. We can cast Dead or Gone, and we can cast Repudiate now, or Shock, which with Stomp rather. Opponent explores. That's fine. Opponent plays Gruul Turf. Does some shenanigans. Picks up Talaria West. Makes sense. Opponent plays Talaria West. Untaps it. Goes up to 4 mana. Plays Cran. Okay. Opponent gets their Crayon. Do I want to counter Karn's activated ability? Or do I want to shock Karn? How do things play out differently between the two? So my opponent can already pay for Summoner's Pact, and I assume I'm not going to get the chance to do that again. I don't need to shock Karn. I don't want my opponent to have Liquimetal Coating. And countering him grabbing Coating this turn should ideally give me an extra turn to try to find a land so I can Bloodbraid Elf and kill Karn. Or if he tutors for Coating again, I can stomp Karn, so I think I do counter this. Repudiate. Opponent has 3 cards in hand. We don't know any of them. We untap. Footfalls ticks down. We draw another Repudiate. We pass. Opponent plays Boros Garrison. Gets an Amulet trigger. Taps for some mana. Taps for a bunch of mana. Taps for 1,000,000 mana. They have 7. They play Primetime. So I can counter the Primetime trigger again. Maybe. I think I have to counter the Primetime trigger so I don't just die here, right? Opponent's going to get to activate Karn, that's fine. I assume they're getting Coating. They might get like... Okay, they get Engineered Explosives, that's fine. Makes sense. That's another thing that we can Repudiate, maybe. Which could be cool. Footfalls ticks down, we draw a land. What do I want to do here? I think wheeling Bloodbraid Elf might be correct. My opponent's going to get to explosives away the rhinos, though, is the issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I Bloodbraid Elf into a pillage, I'm pretty pleased about it. But I'm more likely to hit rhinos. Because there's 7 things that get me rhinos. And there's only 4 land destruction spells. So yeah, I think I just pass here. Probably going to cast Gone on primetime and begin combat. Opponent plays Dryad. Okay, so now he can't replay primetime that we know of. Yeah, even if our opponent has a Karoo, well, they have an additional land drop, so if they have a Karoo, they can replay primetime. But we know 1 card in their hand already. We could also both Dead and Gone Dryad. I think our best chance of survival is casting Gone here and hoping that they don't have an appropriate way to cast primetime again this turn. That prevents more primetime triggers and damage at the very least, so definitely seems correct. Alright, come on, no Karoos. It's pretty unlikely that they don't have any Karoos just because there's so many of them. Okay, our opponent activates Karn. Opponent plays explosives. Okay. Okay, our opponent did not have a Karoo. We get to cast Footfalls. So now our opponent is incentivized to pop explosives. Not right now since they don't have haste, but in general. If we draw a land, I kind of want to Charmaw this turn, since I don't have removal for Dryad right now. Okay, our opponent just popped EE all willy-nilly. I'm fine with that. I guess because we have all these damn activated ability counters. Makes sense. So I think I Charmaw here to blow up the Gruul Turf. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. But they already didn't have a Karoo. So they might still not be able to play Primeval Titan. Blow up Gruul Turf. Pass the turn. Opponent taps 4. Transmutes Talaria West. Okay. Gets Simic Growth Chamber. Okay. They can get 5 mana with that. It's not enough for primetime yet. They get Arboreal Grazers, so they are going to be able to play primetime. Sad. Is there anything I would have changed? Not really. Actually, Choke could be good because of Dryad. But then they have to have a Dryad in play already. I don't know. I think Throes of Chaos is just too slow, since it doesn't impact the board really, so I think I'm going to cut the Throes. I think they're going to get Valakut. Well, I assume they're going to get Valakuts here, right? And kill our Charmaw. Like, that's got to be what the play is, right? If they don't kill Charmaw, I get to kill Dryad, and at least that's something. But primetime is still really scary. Yeah, our opponent attacks with each. Get 1,000,000 Valakut triggers. Yeah, we're dead. Okie dokie. I'll concede to that. Do I want to bring in Choke? Is the question now. Choke would have been pretty good on exactly that turn where we had their Dryad in play. And their lands tapped and no primetime. I think we keep all the Charmaws because that seemed good, at least if we can get it down in time. I think we got to cut Throes of Chaos. And I think I'm between Sinkhole and Choke. Bone Crusher seemed pretty bad too, honestly. I think I want to cut Bone Crushers, or at least one more of them, and then I think I bring in Choke also. I'll try it like that. So cutting the extra Bone Crusher and bringing in Choke makes it even more likely for Bloodbraid Elf to hit land destruction, which could be very, very nice. And we're on the play. Violent Outburst, we have Foundation Breaker. We don't have as many lands as we like, but we have a lot of interaction. If we draw back-to-back lands, this hand is really, really good. So I think I gotta keep it. Especially since we wound up mulliganing and keeping 2 lands last game anyway. But I get to play turn 2 Foundation Breaker into possibly turn 3 Violent Outburst or Gone, and then possibly turn 4 Bloodbraid Elf or Obsidian Dreadmaw? Charmaw, rather? Have I been saying Dreadmaw this entire time? I don't really know. But we get to blow up an early Amulet or Urza's Saga at the very least with Foundation Breaker, and that seems nice. Let's play Raging Ravine, pass the turn. Alright, hopefully we have a few lands off the top of our deck. 2 or 3 would be ideal. Opponent plays Saga. Opponent plays Amulet of Vigor. Do I hit Saga or Amulet? Saga turns into another Amulet eventually. But we have a bit more time to deal with it. And it also reduces the price of Charmaw. We drew Beast Within, which could be nice, but we don't have a way to take advantage of it right now. I think we just got to get the Amulet off the board now. Well, shit. Do I hit Saga or Amulet? Hitting Saga gets them down a land and down an Amulet in the future. I think that has to be the pick. Blow up Saga. Hopefully this isn't me fucking up. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Castle Garenbrig, untaps it. We draw a mountain. Alright, let's pass. Depending on what our opponent does, I'm either going to Beast Within, Amulet, or Violent Outburst here. Opponent taps 3. They play Azusa. So we're Beast Withinning Amulet. Opponent plays Forest Valakut. Okay. We play Pathway. We cast Dead on Azusa. Get that shit out of here. Pass the turn. We have surprise blockers with Violent Outbursts. Our opponent currently doesn't have an Amulet or a ramp. They have Castle Garenbrig, so they can play Primetime the old-fashioned way, but it doesn't have a combo on board currently, at least. Let's see what they get with this. I feel like they're going to get an Urza's Saga, which reduces our Charmaw's price, at least. So that could be useful. They get Boseiju. I'm not too miffed about them getting Boseiju. That doesn't really hit anything too important for us. We have enough of a board that we can make that Primetime just as a 6/6 doesn't matter as much. Cast Footfalls. Block the Beast token. It's like Beast Within, just destroyed a thing. Okay. So we can play Bloodbraid Elf or we can play Pillage. What is better for us here? Bloodbraid Elf could also be a Pillage. One, two, three, four, five. We saw Boseiju in our opponent's hand. So if I pillage, do I hit Boros Garrison, Simic Growth Chamber, or Valakut? I don't think it's worth attacking in right now. I think I need to pillage. And I think Pillage gets Growth Chamber probably, because that turns off their Garen Brig, at least for now, unless they dedicate another land drop into it. Pillage could also blow up an Amulet in the future, though, is the thing. If they play Karn, downtick, and get EE, we're going to be sad. I think we blow up Growth Chamber. And pass so we can block Prime Time. And hopefully they still don't draw an Amulet so we're not dead. Say go. Yeah, opponent gets Karn, so they do have an answer for the Rhinos. I assume they're going to answer the Rhinos probably this turn so they can attack in with Prime Time, and then I should be able to kill Karn with Bloodbraid Elf and hopefully get some more Rhinos off of it, or a Pillage. So we'll see what happens with that. Almost for sure want to get Karn off the board here, though. Let's see what our opponent gets with Prime Time. They get double Talaria West. Okay. Pretty spooky. They're still not getting Urza's Sagas, though, and I'm kind of fine with that. Okay, we drew another Bloodbraid. Let's cast a Bloodbraid Elf, see what we get. We get a Violent Outburst, which is going to get us Rhinos. Yep. Kill Karn. Hopefully fade Amulet and Dryad for another turn. We'll see if we can. Our opponent gets a Summoner's Pact, so they're going to be able to get Dryad. I think that kills us. Because they're going to be able to get a bunch of Valakut triggers. Yep, opponent gets a bunch of Valakuts. Well, they get one Valakut. Huh. So they can deal 12 damage worth of Valakut triggers. Which is interesting. And our opponent casts a Summoner's Pact that turn. Oh, they have Boseiju in their hand. Damn. Oh, and they can kill us with that too, yeah. I was thinking if we drew Choke and played it, we might have been able to get there with Summoner's Pact. Anyway, that was really fun. We got to kill our opponent with a combination of Pact and Stifle effects in a Gruul deck. So I was pretty satisfied with that. I'll see you in the next one. All right, round 3 of Gruul Cascade. We're 1 and 2 right now, but even our losses have been very close matches, so they've been pretty fun. But I'd really like to go 3-2 with this deck. So we need to get our shit together. All right, this hand has early game interaction, and it has some land destruction. Possibly early game if our opponent's playing colorless lands. We don't have any Cascade, but I think this hand's still pretty strong, so let's keep it. Opponent plays Colony Garden. That doesn't bode well for us, I don't think. At least it doesn't mean Amulet, most likely. They don't really play that anymore. But they could easily be either another Cascade deck, the Glimpse of Tomorrow deck, or an Elementals deck. They're not playing a Companion, which makes me think it is a bit more likely to be the Cascade deck. Let's go Mountain. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Foothills. Gets Red-Green Midrange. Looks a bit more like it's an Elementals deck now. Plays Breeding Pool. So Charmaw could be really good. Opponent plays Shartless Agent. Okay, it is the Cascade deck. Let's... Stomp you. You only get to wheel with 3. Hopefully our opponent's Glimpse of Tomorrow is kind of shitty. But we'll see what happens. The game's going to bug out a little bit while it calculates what's going on. Hilarious. Alright, I'm fine with that. Opponent gets a Seasoned Pyromancer trigger, has 1 land, and gets a Shardless Agent. We draw Violent Outburst. That's pretty nice. Let's play Rootbound Crag, pass the turn. We can Violent Outburst and get some blockers when our opponent attacks us, and that gets more permanents off the board for whenever they try to wheel again. Because that is the one thing about this Glimpse of Tomorrow deck, they can keep trying for it repeatedly. Damn, I really wish I had a Stifle effect to get rid of their 1 land. Would have been very funny. Opponent gets Red-Green Midrange, that's fine. I assume they can't go for it this turn. I don't think they have any fast mana, at least like that. Let's Outburst. Cast Footfalls. Okie dokie. Block. Block. We take 2 down to 18. 2 of our opponent's permanents go away. Let's play a forest. Play Bone Crusher Giant. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Pass the turn. My opponent's at 8. I'm pretty sure they're just going to be dead here. Because we can remove one of their blockers. We can attack for 16. Hell yeah. Taking down more Cascade stuff. Okay, what do we want to bring in, if anything? What's even good against them? I guess Anger of the Gods is pretty decent against them. And Pillage, maybe? Like, maybe. Anger of the Gods can clear away their tokens, and that seems pretty useful. Obsidian Trauma is a bit expensive. I don't think Throes of Chaos is correct. I think I bring in the Angers. I think Sinkhole's probably good enough since they're playing Omnath. And like maybe I bring in Pillage. Maybe I bring in Choke. The weird thing is that the spot removal's good enough against them because it gets rid of all those tokens. Maybe I Got a Charmaw, bring something in. I think I just do that. And I'll see how it goes from here. But Repudiate can counter their Cascades. They didn't see any Repudiates. We can remove a bunch of tokens pretty easily because we have Fire and we have Anger of the Gods. And we have Stomp and we have Dead and Gone. And then the Gone part of Dead and Gone and Magmatic Sinkhole can both deal with Omnath pretty well. And Gone's also nice because it can bounce their Chancellors before they get beginning of combat triggers, hopefully. So something I need to remember is if my opponent casts Glimpse and it's going to resolve, I need to put a stop in their main phase. Footfalls, Outburst, Fire Ice, Bloodbraid Elf. I mean, we have Violent Outburst, so this hand's decently fast. We have Fire Ice, so we can interact a little bit. I think I just keep it. Opponent gets a token with Colony Garden. We draw another Crashing Footfalls. That kind of sucks. Alright, so spend one. I don't think the other one's going to get suspended anytime soon because I'm probably going to Fire and Ice on turn 2 and then Violent Outburst on turn 3. So like if we don't hit a land for Bloodbraid Elf on turn 4, I can suspend this, I guess, but then we have to be waiting till turn 8, and this one's probably just not coming down. Alright, always yield. We draw a land, so we are going to be able to Bloodbraid Elf on 4. Play Mountain, pass. Leave up Fire and Ice. We're really just Fire, as we've touched on before. Because if we only let our opponent glimpse with 3 things in play, it's a lot harder for them to get something good. Opponent plays Seasoned Pyromancer, okay. So I'm going to use this to get rid of 2 of the tokens. I'm still casting it on our turn. Yeah, because they're only going to have 4 spins currently. They get rid of a Violent Outburst, which tells me they have more Cascade already. Cast Fire. Target, target. Okay. Tap, tap. Footfalls goes down to 2. Play Cinderglade. Pass. So we're going to leave up our Violent Outburst, which hopefully is enough to keep us alive. They likely get to spin here. They play a Tireless Provisioner instead. Interesting. So they're waiting until they have way more spins. I assume they're going to attack. Maybe they won't. They don't attack. Wise. Cast Violent Outburst. Get some boys so we can start pressuring our opponent. Cast Footfalls. Take down Footfalls. Play Cinderglade. Cast Bloodbraid Elf. Cascade trigger. What do we get? We get a Bone Crusher Giant. Not the most exciting. Kind of hoping for more tokens there, but whatever. Swing for the fences. Put our opponent to 8. So they do need to do something. They can get some food with Provisioner, I guess, to give themselves more spins. I wouldn't have played Bloodbraid Elf if we had Repudiate or some other interaction there, because they're going to be able to get a decent glimpse most likely here. But we can hope, I guess. We do still have a board and Trampoly Boys to attack in with. at the very least. So we kind of force our opponent to go for it finally. Opponent plays Shart. Gets a glimpse, as we know. The game's going to bug out a little bit. They get Fury, Goblin, Dark Dwellers, Wave Sifter, Seasoned Pyromancer. Yup. So opponent's going to combo off. Because their combo is so random, I don't really want to just concede though. So we'll just wait for now. And Fury only gets to kill one of our rhinos too, which is kind of nice. If they randomly just hit a bunch of lands, they're pretty much dead. Since we have a bunch of creatures to attack in with. It's pretty unlikely, but technically it's possible, so we'll see. Opponent plays a Glimpse again. Yup. Gets a bunch of triggers. Opponent's at 5 still. They got a Chancellor of the Forge, so we're probably dead now. Creates a bunch of 1/1s. They don't have 20 creatures yet at least, but they're getting close. If I'm being honest. Yup. I'm probably going to bring in Pillages now. Opponent plays Violent Outburst, keeps going. So they do have Teferis, which is going to be interesting for us. Plays another Glimpse. Opponent gets a shit ton of Tireless Provisioners. Gets a Teferi in play. Gets a Foundation Breaker. I'm kind of just interested to see how far this can go. And if they can keep getting more glimpses from here. Our opponent's still just at 5, so they can't use much of the mana that they've got. They can't crack all these fetch lands. They can of course start making food tokens if they actually want life though. Because they're getting a shit ton of treasures right now. Yeah, this deck seems really sweet. I'm still wondering if I bring in Pillage or not. Being on the play next game plus Teferi being around makes me lean towards it. I think I want it instead of Charmaw since it comes out faster. Most likely. Yeah, opponent can crack all these foods. I just want to see if they keep going, honestly. If they just start gaining life, I'm going to concede. Yeah, they just started gaining life. Okay. I don't want to make them waste their time that way. I just wanted to see more of how their deck works. So I'm going to bring in Pillages to keep them off the 3 mana, hopefully. Unfortunately, Charmaw is a little slow. We can cut Sinkhole pretty safely, I think. I think I want Beast Within. I think I cut another Charmaw. I think I cut all the Charmaws since they're so slow and they don't have any colorless lands that we saw. I think I might bring in Choke since they do have islands. And I think I cut like a Bone Crusher Giant and try it like that. Foundation Breaker still doesn't really seem worth it. Hooting Mandrills doesn't really seem worth it. Kitchen Finks doesn't really seem worth it. Removal's good, but it's not as good as Mana Denial, I don't think. We will take the play. Alright, we only have one land, so I think I just got to mulligan this. The Repudiate kind of makes me want to keep it, but I got to mulligan. Alright, we have Repudiate again, and we have Choke, and we can actually cast all our stuff, so this hand's actually pretty decent. We don't have a clock, but sometimes you gotta take what you can get. So let's keep. Let's get rid of Beast Within. Let's get rid of Beast Within. Mostly because since we don't have a clock here, I think the 3/3 might actually be a threat, and giving them a token, it doesn't seem like the best thing ever. Since they can probably take advantage of it. They get a boy from Chancellor of the Forge. Okay. Let's go Forest Pass. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn. Attacks for 1. That's fine. Passes. We play Rootbound Crag. Do I suspend Footfalls, or do I repudiate their Scalding Tarn? Scalding Tarn's probably going to get an island anyway. I think I want to play Footfalls here, so I can get a clock sooner, pass the turn. Maybe that's not correct, so I can choke next turn, but it's probably going to get, they're probably going to get an island, and they're probably going to use the mana from it, in which case I can play choke, hopefully safely. I assume they get a Rogran Triome, yeah. Pass the turn. Yeah, and Repudiate keeps us safe from Cascade stuff for the time being. Not if they play Teferi first, but we haven't seen a bunch of Teferis from them. I think they only have like 2 out of their sideboard, maybe. Opponent plays a mountain, attacks for 1. That's fine. One of these days we're going to get these rhinos and it's going to feel sweet. Footfalls ticks down. We draw Cinderglade. So I think I play Cinderglade here, pass. I kind of want them to play hopefully another island and then go for Cascade so I can repudiate it and then play choke while they're tapped down. Opponent plays Misty. Attacks for 1. And we gotta remember they have Violent Outburst so they could go for it at any time at instant speed. Opponent passes. Footfalls ticks down. We draw a forest. I'll play the forest. Pass the turn. Opponent does not crack Misty. Opponent cracks Misty Rainforest. Footfalls is at 2. Okay. I think they're going to go for the Cascade instead of playing Teferi here. If they play Teferi, they're still going to be tapped out, and then I can hopefully fire to kill Teferi because they'll probably downtick. They play Tireless Provisioner. That's fine too. Opponent plays an island. Okay. So I think fire just kills Provisioner now. Which is still pretty fine. They have treasure tokens, which makes it a little bit worse to choke them. Cast fire. They didn't attack for 1 for whatever reason, probably because we have Violent Outburst mana up. Alright, let's kill Tireless Provisioner, stop them from making extra treasure tokens over the course of this game, hopefully. Choke is going to keep 2 of their lands tapped down currently. We draw Bone Crusher Giant, that's not bad. Let's play Crag Crown. Play Choke. Pass the turn. Alright, so that's 2 lands our opponent has essentially dealt with. They still have 3, so they could go for Cascade here again. And they have enough permanents that it's worth repudiating the Cascade. They don't attack, we untap. We cast Rhinos. Yeah, I think we're just going to keep holding up interaction and hopefully beat them to death before they get a chance to do anything about it. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Violent Outburst. We counter it. Opponent has 3 tapped lands now. And a 2/1. Opponent gets a token with Colony Garden and another land that's going to be able to untap. Let's stomp the Goblin. Untap. We draw Treetop Village. Alright, our opponent might be able to go for a Cascade kill again this turn. But we just gotta pressure them and hope for the best, I think. Because we don't have anything else to do at this point. But they have 2 lands that can untap and they might be able to play another land. They did miss a couple land drops though, so they might not. Is it worth holding Treetop in hand and pretending like we still have more interaction? I don't think it is. I think we just gotta try to get enough Trampling Boys on the board that we can kill our opponent for sure. Alright, cross your fingers for me. Can we beat another Cascade deck? And we got there, sweet! Who's the best Cascade deck now? It's Budget Rhinos with Repudiate, the best card in the format. Alright, see you in the next one. Alright, round 5. 2-2 currently. We're playing against a Lurrus deck, which is a little terrifying. I'd really like to be able to win this last match so I can go 3-2 with this abomination of a Cascade deck. Our mana's a bit slow, but we have plenty of fixing. We have a lot of interaction. We have a Repudiate, which is hilarious. I think we keep it. We have enough mana to where if we draw Violent Outburst, we can cast it. At least eventually. Opponent plays Polluted Delta. I think we just lead on Sheltered Thicket, right? Since it comes into play tapped no matter what. And then next turn we can either play Cinderglade or Rootbound Crag, depending. Looks like we're playing against Mill. Opponent plays Spreading Seas. So Rootbound Crag is gonna be a bit slow still. We draw Charmaw. Let's play Cinderglade. Pass the turn. This way our opponent can Field of Ruin us and we can still get Rootbound Crag untapped next turn. Ooh, repudiating a Field of Ruin would feel really good. Because then our opponent sinks effectively 3 mana into cracking a fetch land and then they don't get it. And it also doesn't turn on their archive traps. Spreading Seas, what the fuck? Alright. Well, this is a pain in the ass. Can't Okay, we drew another Repudiate. We can actually cast those with our blue mana, and our opponent like weirdly fixed our blue splash for us. But I still find this suspicious. Alright. Field of Ruin. No. We have really high average CMC, so Tasha's Hideous Laughter probably isn't... I mean, honestly, we don't even know for sure that this is Mill. We just saw Field of Ruin, and I assumed that. I don't know if they play Spreading Seas. I don't think they do. Okay, now I think it's Mill again. They got rid of our Repudiate from our hand, which kind of sucks. Hopefully we draw an untapped land, and hopefully it's a red one so we can play Charmaw sooner rather than later. But if we draw any untapped land, we can cast Throes of Chaos and hopefully get some Rhinos. Because we need to pressure our opponent. Okay, that's a 4-drop. I think I just cast Bone Crusher here. Opponent gets a Watery Grave. Tapped. We still want to draw lands. Opponent draws a Field of Ruin. He's going to Field of Ruin our dual land, I assume. And we'll see if they're actually mill or not if they Archive Trap us. Get a Mountain, since it's a bit better with this current hand, since we're very red heavy. Yep, there's Archive Trap. There's another Archive Trap. Visions of Beyond. No more Archive Traps, please. Hedron Crab. Okay. Well, we can kill that. We draw a forest. We can play... I guess I should check and see if there's one Footfall still in our deck somewhere. Alright, play Bloodbraid Elf. Get Crashing Footfalls. Attack for 7. Alright, our opponent's got to kill us this turn. It's not impossible, but we have 18 cards in our library and they don't have crabs. Good for them. And we have lots and lots of things to kill our opponent with. Opponent casts Fracturing Sanity. Mills. Oh, they cycle it. Would casting it not have been better? They cycle another one. Shouldn't they have cycled one, tried to draw a land, and then cast the other? I guess that's what they tried to do. Alright, we got there. I guess. So Choke seems fantastic. Anger seems good against their boys. How much removal do we actually want? I think we can go down Charmaw pretty easily. At least some of them. Throes of Chaos seems decent. Fire and Ice doesn't seem great, since it only kills one thing. Dead and Gone is a bit better. I think I want a bunch of Angers. And I think I want at least 2 Pillages. Cut a Monkey. Cut a Sinkhole, bring in the other Pillage to make our deck a bit more consistent. Try it like that. Don't want to go down all of the Charmaws because they do have some colorless lands, and land destruction is a decent way to make up for not having actual sideboard cards against Mill. Okay, we have Repudiate, we have Crashing Footfalls. We'll see what we draw. I'm probably just playing Cinderglade tapped on turn 1 instead of suspending Footfalls, but we'll see. And hopefully we can hold up Repudiate to deal with a Field of Ruin again, because that's very good tempo against our opponent. Opponent plays Tormod's Crypt for some reason. Not particularly good against us, though. Opponent plays Shellcock Isle. Alright, let's play Raging Ravine, since it always comes in tapped. And we could draw another basic or get fixed for one with a Field of Ruin, possibly. Opponent plays Ruin Crab. That kind of sucks for us. They play a Plains randomly. I'm a little confused about that. I will play a Forest. Pass the turn. They milled a Throes of Chaos with our stuff. We're probably not going to cast that anytime soon, but it's nice to have the option at least. Opponent plays a basic Swamp. So fucking weird. They're not playing fetch lands, so at least that's a thing. They Spreading Seas our land. I'll tap for a green defiantly. That takes us off of Pillage, unfortunately for us. What the fuck? Opponent plays Profane Memento, which I forgot existed. We draw Dead and Gone. I cannot Dead Gone Ruin Crab, unfortunately. I can still hold up Repudiate with this, so I think I just gotta go Cinderglade pass. Your opponent's playing an incredibly weird mill deck. Opponent shocks in a Watery Grave, mills us a little bit with Ruin Crab. They see our Anger of the Gods. They know that we have that now. Very sad. We untap. We draw an Anger of the Gods. Let's... I think I just want to get the crab off the board while I can. And then I can suspend Crashing Footfalls. Opponent plays Drown on the Lock, that's fine. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. I assume it's more interaction, since they haven't been milling us very aggressively and they haven't played any more crabs. Opponent plays Fetch Land, mills us 3. They're going to get to mill us at least 3 more with that. Both of our Throes of Chaos are in the yard. We have 34 cards in our deck. And we have a Crashing Footfalls slowly ticking down. I like playing suspend cards a lot, they're very fun. Okay. When can Shelldock Isle be activated? Library has 20 or fewer cards. I think I want to go Mountain. I feel like they have counter spells, so I think I'm going to go Pillage your Shelldock Isle. See if they want to counter it. And this way I can leave up Repudiate this turn still, in case they draw a way to force us to... Okay. They didn't counter that, so either they didn't have something particularly good under Shelldock Isle or they don't have counter spells. They Spreading Seas. Which is lame, but it happens. Opponent mills us for 3. I think I'm going to use Repudiate to counter this Polluted Delta here. Try to start the mana denial plan sooner rather than later. If I can keep them off of 3 blue mana, they can't actually cast Fracturing Sanity. And I can cast a Charmaw here to blow up, I guess, their Watery Grave. We draw Cinderglade. Cast Charmaw. See if they have a counter. They do not counter it, we blow up Watery Grave. Because I assume black mana is more important to them, because we haven't really seen any white stuff. They have a Path to Exile randomly. I will not search for a basic. I will blow up your land, however, and I'll play my own Cinderglade, pass the turn. I think I'd rather keep up the red so I could possibly cast Dead on a Hedron Crab. Opponent plays Field of Ruin, so if they have an Archive Trap, they can force us to search our library now, at least. I assume they have an Archive Trap, that's probably why they're playing like this. Might as well get a mountain. Opponent mills us. We have 22 cards. They gain some life again. Footfalls is coming down in 2 turns. Apparently they just popped Field of Ruin without actually having Archive Trap, which is a little curious, of course. Footfalls ticks down. We draw Bone Crusher Giant. Huh. I think I stomp Hedron Crab. Yeah, I think I just want to get the crab off the board now, since we have the option. Cast Dead on Hedron Crab. Cast Bone Crusher Giant. And I'll get back to land destruction hopefully next turn. Getting rid of another blue source. Opponent plays Visions, draw some cards. Opponent plays Crypt Incursion, getting 3 cards out of our graveyard. Good for them. Footfalls ticks down. I will cast Footfalls, because I would love for my opponent to be not alive anymore. We draw Pillage. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Charmaw. Blow up the 1 target. Go to combat. Attack you. We have 20 cards in our library currently. And we have a lot of damage on board, but not lethal. Opponent plays Drown in the Lock on our Charmaw. Opponent gains a life. That's fine. Opponent plays a Field of Ruin. 1 card left in their hand. They Field of Ruin our land. Okay. Do we still have a basic? I don't remember. We do. I will take it. Opponent gets another island. We draw Bloodbraid Elf. Interesting. 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'd rather Bloodbraid Elf here, because Bloodbraid Elf could also be a pillage, but could also just be a bunch of pressure. Choke seems great. It's like 2 pillages. Attack with all the homies. So opponent lost 2 more blue sources there. We have lethal on board, pass the turn. Can we get the 3-2 with budget Cascade? Opponent plays Path. Okay. No reason to search, don't have any basics. And I don't think our opponent can get enough mill with 2 mana and 1 card to kill us. And I also don't think they can remove 2 of our guys unless they have like an engineered explosives. And opponent concedes, sweet! We actually did get to choke some people, that was pretty cool. Got to use it multiple times. That deck was way more competitive than I expected it to be. I definitely think that, like, of course Teamer Cascade is a thing, but I think that there could be an actual Gruul Cascade deck too, just based on what we saw there, playing a similar strategy where you just go Bloodbraid Elf, bunch of removal, beat face, maybe some land destruction. Because a lot of where we stumbled was because of our mana base, so if we fix that up, that could be a lot better. Let's see what we got in the chest. Yeah, we beat both of the Cascade decks we played against, which felt great. We had way closer of a matchup against Amulet than I thought we would. Got a Benthic Biomancer, a Wild Ricochet, and only 5 play points. That was kind of a trash treasure chest, but whatever. What was our other loss in round 1? Shit, what was round 1? I'll remember when I look back over it, I guess, but I remember that one being pretty close too, because we got at least one of the games in that. But yeah, only about $30 to play this on Moto, only about $100 to build it in paper, pretty sweet deck. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, Shoe Nice again. Well, basically, go subscribe to Tezzey's YouTube channel. And for those who made it to the end of the video, thank you.